I'm Dan Drake. This is Front Up on Channel 99 and Geno TV. Our guest today is Dawn Hill Holdgate, a selectman of the town of Nantucket. Welcome.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I forget it's afternoon. A couple of things I'd like to talk with you about today, if I may. One is sort of a follow-up to town meeting. And then secondly, just get your sort of reactions to having been a selectman for a year and how you feel about it and what you still would like to see accomplished. Can we do that?
We can do that.
Good. So let's talk about town meeting. First of all, generally, how did you feel about town meeting?
I thought it was a really successful town meeting this year. Good discussion, good outcomes. I was pleased. A good debate. Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was very pleased with the results of town meeting. I enjoyed the Saturday. I know that there's some mixed feelings on that. I'd love to hear for next year what people think opposed to Saturday during nighttime. But I liked spending an 8-hour day and having a lunch in the middle and really getting through a lot of it.
I think it does work a lot. I mean, you get seems you get just as many people, one or the other. So, anyhow. What are some of the issues that came up? For example, one issue that the article never got called was the building height. Did that surprise you?
It surprised me that it didn't get called.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think that it's a good thing. You know, particularly in the area around Stop and Shop, we already have buildings that are well over 40 feet, and to actually accommodate like second and third level apartments, it's the right place to do it. In my mind.
You also need it downtown because of the new requirements of the height of buildings for the floodplain, right?
Well, it's already allowed downtown by special
Okay.
permit. Yes,
by
in the
special
in the RCDT,
Okay.
it's allowed.
All
Yeah.
right. Because
So-
some of those buildings are pretty high, the new ones that are going up.
Yeah, that and already exist at heights like the Dreamland and so forth.
Yeah. The sewers. Let's talk about the sewer
Okay.
article and the fact that it changed. The financing changed from a 25% contribution by the new members of the sewer, if you want to put it that way, to being funded all by the taxpayers. Were you surprised at that?
I was not surprised. I had a feeling that motion would be made. I wasn't completely certain how it would go.
How did you feel personally? How did you feel? I don't know how you voted in the selectmen's meeting, so.
I supported some form of a split just because of all of the comments we got across the board. I think it could have been less, and I'm fine personally with 100%. And I just think that we have to get the sewers done. And there were still so many questions on what's the actual final cost going to be, and that's really hard for people to plan for. So
Right.
I understand why it went that way. And
Well, personally, I felt there was also the issue of fairness. You know, the town, the taxpayers have paid for, except for the aberration with the new sewer plant, which hasn't really worked out very well. I don't think. The town has always paid for sewers. It's a basic service. We didn't ask people who have kids in the elementary school to contribute to the elementary school.
Right, I understand that argument, definitely.
That was my feeling.
Yeah.
But
I'm perfectly happy with the way it went. And
we have
I
a
just
hurdle-
hope that
Yeah,
people will vote for it at the ballot. And that was one of the things we were trying to hear all of the concerns of the people who are on septic and will always be on septic.
Right.
And I think that was a group that really wanted some kind of a split, and we hope that they'll still vote for it because our harbor's really important.
why would they care? Ultimately, they're going to have to pay out the money anyway. The amount on their taxes is almost nothing.
I think it may be the cumulative of all of the projects we have coming forward that are all pretty necessary.
I think we did hear a number that surprised some people of something like a total of 200 million, more than 200 million related to future sewer upgrades and.
That's
so
it.
forth.
That, I believe, is if all of it needs to be done, which the hope is that it will not all need to be done. But we will be bringing the Matticat Somerset articles forth in October.
Right, and then there's also the issue of stormwater, and more needs to be done.
Yes.
With respect to stormwater, and that's
Yeah.
another $20-some million, isn't it? Yeah.
I'm not
Yes,
sure
right.
on the number for that, but yes, I know they've been working on stormwater, and there's
And
more to
it's,
do, and there's more to do on fertilizer, but the regulations are in place, and
Unfortunately, all of
The
these things are at the
subcommittees.
margin. You know, they all are needed to get the loadings down. You can't just do one. You need to do all of them, and I think that's what some people didn't grasp.
Right, because we need to try to have a positive impact on all of the things that we can control.
Right.
Because there's a large percentage that just comes out of the atmosphere. And
When it rains. So people need to get out and vote for the ballot question on Tuesday.
They really do. We need to clean up the harbor. I want to be able to go in the harbor, scallop in the harbor, have my kids enjoy the harbor, and I think everybody else does too.
Yeah, exactly. How do you feel about your first year as a selectman?
I think it's been great. I can't believe it's already been a year. I've learned a lot, and it's it's very different than my former experience on the HDC because we're dealing with so many broad topics, and I've gotten to know so many more people, and I feel good about it. I hope people think I'm doing a good job.
What issues are sort of your personal favorites?
Personal favorites. Well, I really want to see something move forward with the island home. I know that we do have to address town offices somehow, no matter where they are. We need more space and some rehabilitation of buildings. And the sewer is important to me. The school was a huge issue to me last year, but I'm just really happy to see it being built and going forward so quickly. It's going really well. And
the firehouse was another one that but that was a little bit before your watch, but that's moving forward. There's a lot going on.
Yep.
Do you think the town really has the capacity to manage everything that's going on?
I think so.
You think it without neglecting other things?
That's a loaded question.
Well, it is and it isn't. But I mean, it's a concern. I mean, this town. I mean, I see this at the airport, and they get stretched when there are a lot of projects going on. Same thing is true in the town.
Well, I think we are doing a good job recognizing when more staff needs to be hired or things need to be reorganized to put the staff resources in the right places. Like there is a new position being created specifically for sewer that will split Kara's position, where she'll be the DPW director, and there will be a new person hired.
So the
that will be
sewers are
managing the sewer.
basically split out of the DPW, or stay in, but somebody else.
I don't know the exact layout of who manages who, but there's a new position being created that will be completely
in charge of sewers and the
dealing with the
wastewater
sewer and
treatment plant.
wastewater. Yes.
Interesting. I had not heard that, but I don't hear everything.
Yeah.
What are there things that you would like to see addressed going forward that aren't sort of in the mainstream now of what, once we get some of these things set and working and so forth? Are there other issues that you would like to see taken up by the town and the board?
Well, I think town-wide, and I'm starting to hear a lot more press about this, there's something going on tonight and this weekend about our addiction and opioid crisis, which is nationwide, but I think that Nantucket needs to recognize it more and take more steps to be proactive about that. I know Tess Pearson is on next.
I'm sure.
And she'll probably want to talk to you about mental health and
yeah,
substance abuse issues. But I think it is something that's important for our community to be aware of and the leaders to acknowledge.
One of the things is that the town's budget for human services, until it was sort of busted slightly at town meeting, has been pretty much steady for quite a few years now. There's been the budget has grown, but there's been nothing more. In fact, if you count the fact that the town eliminated the position of Director of Human Services, there are no town employees now involved in providing human services other than our island home, which is a little different situation, as far as I'm aware.
Well, I believe Rachel still oversees human service, but it's changed the structure.
Right, and the cost of everything else is going up. The population of here has grown, but human services expenditures by the town have stayed flat, pretty much. Is that something that you think needs to be addressed in the future, or are you content with that level of support for human services from the town?
I'd like to see us put more support towards it, but I'd like organizations to bring forth
To provide the
solid
services.
solid plans
To
for
provide, yeah,
services.
other third-party providers, good third-party providers, but more money you think is probably needed for them.
I think so,
Yeah.
yes. Or other ways to support the situation. The other thing is housing, which we are making strides towards, but it's going to be a battle at the state level
Right.
to create the housing bank. And I do want to move forward. This is something that's already in the pipeline, but we're calling it 6 fairgrounds now. I was told the other day for the housing that we hope to create, or RFP for
Right.
someone to create
Which
next
is
to the
what
police station
what
and
the
fire
airport
station.
wants to do for a small
Right.
parcel out there as
Right,
well.
in the Delta area, yeah.
The motion, I was not aware of the motion that Rick Atherton made at town meeting to reduce the contribution to the housing bank to 0.5% from
Yeah.
1%. And I guess you had a special meeting just before the town meeting, the Board of Selectmen did, to talk about that.
We did.
And he explained the rationale, I think. Well, why don't you explain the rationale? I shouldn't be talking.
Well, originally it was supposed to be 0.75% was going to go towards housing, and 1/4 would go towards things like sewer that help service housing. And that was already changed. And a lot of it was gathering support to take it to the next step at the state level. And we were going to get more local support as well as potential statewide support by making it a slightly less percentage.
Why? I mean, is it because of the real estate brokers who don't want something else added into the, and I recognize you're a real estate broker, but, still, I mean, talking intellectually about it, was it because the real estate brokers didn't want it added in there? Is there some other factor at play here?
There were concerns from real estate brokers and from builders about putting another tax on homeowners.
Yeah, but it was any sale over $2 million.
Yes.
Right.
And there were some concerns with that too, that it was maybe unfairly going towards a certain segment of the market, and that it was more palatable at 0.5%. And moving something forward and getting larger amounts of support was important to us. It's still going to be a significant amount of money. If we do get it passed through the state, maybe adjustments can be made to it later. Maybe other factors will change. We'll have programs really in place that people can get behind. And
do you have any sense of whether Tim Madden's retirement and Dan Wolf's retirement are going to have an impact on our ability to get that through?
I think that it could, yes. Yeah. But we'll see who's elected.
Right. I haven't heard from anybody from Nantucket stick up their hand yet. Have you?
No, not yet.
Anything else that strikes you as needing the board's attention?
I'm sure there are. But nothing's coming to mind right at this moment. But if there's anything you want to ask me about.
Well, I haven't come up with anything else either. But you know what I want changed, but I won't go into that here.
Okay.
Do you still think town meeting is an effective way of running the town? I think I asked you that last year.
I worry that we don't capture enough people. But at the same time, I love the process. I just thought it was a great town meeting this year. And I felt like there was a broad range of people there. There were a lot of the people that we always see there, but there were a lot of younger people, families that came this year and really spoke up. I appreciated it.
There was a young man I met in the Stop and Shop after the Saturday session, who I didn't know, but I recognized him from town meeting. And I said, I find it a bit painful, the process. But I said to this young man, how was it? Did you enjoy it? And he said, I thought it was great. I loved it. And I said, how many have you been to? He said, well, this was my first one. I've lived here since 2008. But the fact that he came is very important and very good.
I think it's great that it's televised, too, so people can watch and they can maybe come if there's something that they feel strongly about.
That's a bit unfair, isn't it? That's a bit unfair, I
bit
think. The
what do you
fact
mean?
that people can come and go and vote on what they want to vote on and ignore what they don't want to vote on.
No, it would be nice
And
if
some of
everyone
the
stayed
things
for
that
the
are
whole
left, I
thing.
mean, we haven't talked about term limits, for example. Would the result have been different if that was article number 15 instead of article number 90?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Well,
But it's
maybe.
all part of government.
Yeah.
There are checks and balances, and yes, people can come for just what they want to vote for. I wish they would all stay for the whole thing, but at least they come for that issue and speak up.
Yeah.
And I think term limits might have gone differently if it were more limited. Maybe if it was just Board of Selectmen that was limited to 3 terms, that might have had a different result.
Well, I mean, to be honest, the problems in part on the Airport Commission probably came about because there were no term limits. That's my view. The things, 4 or 5 years ago that needed to be corrected. And people get entrenched and they lose sight of things and people don't question them. That is my concern more than anything else about government around here, is that people don't question what's going on. They just accept it.
Well, they need to question it.
They do need to question it, absolutely. And anyway, it's been great talking to you, and thank you for sharing your views with us, and keep at it.
Anytime.
Dawn Hill
Thank
Holdgate,
you.
thank you very much.